What's he going to do with this quarterback situation?
He better figure it out. You got Michael Penix, who is almost a second coming of Shador, the left-hand version. You seen what you did with Shador, and it was unacceptable. Who has gotten better from the player's perspective with Kevin Stefanski? The Atlanta Falcons, they're a young team. You got Michael Penix as your quarterback, Drake London as your receiver, Kyle Pitts. Your team is young.
Gentlemen, this man was in Cleveland for about 6 years, had 13 different quarterbacks. One of them was Baker Mayfield. Another was Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, various others.
Arthur Blank is not just upset. He is absolutely boiling right now. The Arthur Blank isn't smiling. He isn't shaking hands. He's reportedly tucked away behind closed doors like a boss in a movie plotting his next move. And when a billionaire owner goes quiet like that, yeah, somebody in the building better start sweating. Because inside the Atlanta Falcons organization, things have officially hit that breaking point. Not the we'll fix it next week type of tension. No, this is the kind where people start side-eyeing each other in meetings and phones start ringing a little more than usual. And guess who's right in the middle of the storm? Kevin Stefanski.
Fan version. Yeah. How you gonna handle it? We seen what you did.
The same guy who was brought in to stabilize things, bring direction, maybe even build something special, is now allegedly flipping the entire table over. And here's the wild part. This isn't about bad play calling. This isn't about, hey, we need better red zone efficiency or let's tweak the offense a little bit. Nah, this goes way deeper. Stefanski is reportedly pushing the front office to go get a whole different quarterback, not develop the guy they already have, not compete, not build depth, but straight up shift the entire direction of the franchise. And who does that put directly in the crosshairs? Michael Penix Jr. ! Yeah, before the man has even had a real shot to fully show what he can do. Before he's had time to settle in, learn, grow, make mistakes, bounce back. All the stuff young quarterbacks are supposed to go through. Stefanski is already acting like it's time to move on.
From what we've seen, don't get better with Kevin Stefanski. And I'm looking at the personnel of the Atlanta Falcons. They're a young team. You got Michael Penix as your quarterback, Drake London as your receiver, Kyle Pitts,
Bijan.
Like that's a very young team. Like your team is young. It's like you're inheriting something that's already great.
And Arthur Blank? Oh, he's not having that. At all. Not even a little bit. Not a, let's hear him out. Not a, maybe we consider it. Just a flat out no. Nothing. And honestly, you can see why. Because let's zoom out for a second and look at what's actually being built in Atlanta right now. This isn't some random rebuilding team throwing pieces together and hoping it works. This is one of the most exciting young squads in the league climbing up fast. The roster? Loaded with talent. Young guys stepping up, making plays, showing flashes that make fans jump out of their seats. Energy everywhere. Speed everywhere. Confidence everywhere. This team isn't just playing football. They're building an identity. And at the center of all that, Michael Penix Jr. ! A quarterback with real arm talent. Real confidence. The kind of presence where you can tell, yeah, this guy believes he belongs. He's already shown glimpses, moments where everything clicks and you go, okay, there it is. The plan was simple. Almost too simple. Build around him. Let him grow. Let him take his lumps. Learn the system and develop into the guy. That's how this is supposed to go. But then, Stefanski walks in and hits the franchise with a plot twist nobody asked for. Because according to sources, he's not just suggesting competition. He's not saying bring in a veteran to push him. No, he's reportedly pushing for a completely different quarterback direction altogether. And that's where things start getting real uncomfortable. Real fast. Because now it's not just a football decision. It's a message. A message to the locker room. A message to the fans. And most importantly, a message to Penix himself.
I just don't think they had the feel for the situation, right? The kid brought you all the way back. Let him make the play. Right, and it's hard because you look at it, and he's there, and if Larvin cuts the right way, he walks in, but he still had to make the right cut. And the ball has to be there. So second straight week that in a huge leverage situation, you put the ball in somebody's hands who's in a spot they're not used to. Fannin taking the snap 2 weeks ago, and last week Judkins taking that and having to hand it off. So it just doesn't make, it's just outsmarting. And I think that's ultimately at the end for Stefanski, that's what it's going to be. Like he did some good things, And ultimately, he was too smart for his own good in some situations.
And that message sounds a lot like, we don't fully believe in you. And trust me, players feel that. Locker rooms pick up on that instantly. You can't hide that kind of energy. 1 minute you're building confidence, next minute you're shaking the foundation. And here's where it gets even more tense. The type of quarterback Stefanski is allegedly pushing for? Yeah, that's raising eyebrows all over the place. People inside the building, people outside the building. Everyone's looking at this like, hold on, what exactly is going on here? Because now it's not just about football fit anymore. It's about direction, identity, and what this franchise actually wants to be. And Arthur Blank sees all of that. He didn't build this organization by letting things spiral out of control. He knows when something feels off. And right now, everything feels off. So what's happening behind those closed doors? Leadership meetings. Serious ones. The kind where voices get a little louder, pauses get a little longer, and every word actually matters. They're weighing options. Real options. Do you cut ties with Stefanski before things get worse? Do you sit him down and tell him, this is the plan, get on board or step aside? Or do you somehow try to smooth this over and hope it doesn't fracture the locker room? None of those choices are easy. Not one. And that's why, as of right now, there's no final decision. Just tension. Thick, heavy, can't ignore it tension. The kind that sits in the building even when nobody's talking. The kind that shows up in practice, in meetings, in every little interaction. You can feel it. And everybody knows. Something's gotta give. What's really driving Falcons management crazy right now isn't just the drama. It's the fact that none of this was supposed to happen like this. They didn't bring in Kevin Stefanski to flip the script and wreck the blueprint. They brought him in to upgrade it, sharpen it, take it from promising to dangerous.
Did I not tell you Kevin Stefanski was Shador's best friend? I'll get killed for that statement, but you know it was true, because if Kevin was still here, it'd just be like, Shador's going to start, and that's the way it goes. You got a new head coach. He's a first-time head coach. He's 60 years old. He ain't got time to wait on anything. He ain't got time to make any of us feel comfortable or anything like that. He's going to do what's best for the football team, and now we're asking owners at the league meeting about it, and don't call it a comeback. Here we go.
The expectation? Simple. Take all that young talent, all that speed, all that hunger, and turn it into a legit contender. Be the guy who connects the dots. Be the architect. The one who walks in and says, yeah, I see what y'all building. Now let's go win with it. But instead, it's starting to look like Stefanski walked in, looked around and said, nah, let me bring my own stuff. And that's where the confusion turns into frustration. Because now it feels like he's less interested in developing what's already there, and more focused on importing outside answers. Like he doesn't trust the pieces that the front office spent years putting together. And that's where everybody in the building starts looking at each other like, wait, what? Because think about it. You walk into a situation stacked with young talent, a roster that's already showing flashes, a quarterback like Michael Penix Jr. who clearly has upside, and your first move is to shake it all up. That's not just bold. That's confusing. Nobody's saying everything was perfect. Every team has holes. Every roster needs tweaks. But there's a difference between adjusting and tearing the whole foundation apart before it even sets. And that's why the logic just isn't landing for people inside that facility. Coaches, staff, front office, they're all trying to figure out what the long game is here. Because right now, it doesn't look like alignment. It looks like a tug of war. And here's where things get even louder. Because this situation didn't come out of nowhere. Cam Newton saw this coming from a mile away. The second Stefanski got hired, Cam didn't hold back. No filter, no soft landing. Just straight talk. And his main concern? Crystal clear. He questioned how Falcons ownership could look at Stefanski's past, especially what went down with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, and still decide, yeah, that's our guy. That wasn't a light critique. That was a full-on warning. Cam basically said, look, this isn't just about X's and O's. This is about how a coach handles players, how he develops them, how he believes in them. And in his view, Stefanski didn't give Shedeur Sanders a real shot, not a fair runway, not a real opportunity to grow into the role. And according to Cam, it wasn't just about performance. He pointed to deeper factors like identity, background, and how players carry themselves. Now that conversation, it gets sensitive real quick. And it should, because once you start talking about identity and culture, You're no longer just debating football decisions. You're talking about trust. And trust is everything in a locker room. Cam's point at its core was about connection, about whether a coach truly understands the players he's leading or just tolerates them. And he didn't mince words. He made it clear that Shedeur Sanders represents a certain confidence, a certain presence, a certain cultural authenticity. And not every coach knows how to embrace that. Now take that concern and drop it into Atlanta, because Atlanta isn't just another NFL city. This is one of the most culturally influential cities in the country, a place where the fan base is deeply connected to the team, where identity, pride, and community are all tied into what happens on that field. And when that team is rolling, the city feels it. So now you've got Stefanski, coming from Cleveland, stepping into Atlanta, and the contrast is impossible to ignore. Different environment, different expectations, different energy, and people are watching closely, because this isn't just about wins and losses anymore. It's about whether the coach and the culture are actually in sync. Cam Newton made sure everyone was paying attention to that. He didn't just raise a question, he dropped a spotlight on the whole situation. And now, those early concerns are starting to feel a little too real, because the same pattern people were worried about is starting to show up again. And that's what's fueling all the conversation online. Fans, analysts, insiders, everybody's asking the same thing. If things didn't go smoothly with Shedeur Sanders before, what makes this situation any different? Why should anyone believe the approach is suddenly going to change? And that question? It's not going away anytime soon, because right now this doesn't look like a one-time misstep. It looks like a pattern people are trying to understand. A pattern where young quarterbacks don't always get the runway fans expect, where development feels rushed or redirected before it fully plays out. And again, nobody's saying there's only one way to build a team. There are different philosophies, different styles, different approaches. But what people are saying is this: if you're going to take over a young, talented roster, you've got to be aligned with it. You've got to believe in it. You've got to build with it, not against it. Because the second that disconnect shows up, everybody feels it. When you really slow this whole thing down and look at what happened in Cleveland, like really look at it. No distractions, no media spin, no highlight clips covering the truth. It starts lining up a little too clean. And suddenly what Cam Newton said doesn't sound bold anymore. It sounds accurate, because Cam didn't dance around it. He didn't throw out vague takes or play both sides. He called it straight. He said from the jump that people would try to flip the narrative on Shedeur Sanders, that somehow the story would turn into the young quarterback is the problem. And let's be real, that's exactly how these things usually go, right? The pressure builds, the losses stack up, and suddenly fingers start pointing at the easiest target. The young QB, the new guy, the one still figuring it out. But Cam wasn't letting that slide. Not this time. He stepped in and basically said, nah, that's not the real issue. He pointed the spotlight directly at Kevin Stefanski and said, if you want to understand what's really happening, that's where you need to look. And now, fast forward to Atlanta. And it's starting to feel like deja vu with a different jersey, because the same type of tension, the same kind of questions, the same uneasy energy, it's all showing up again. Only this time, it's not just one player in the mix. It's an entire young core, a roster full of talent that's still developing, still growing, still trying to reach that next level. And right in the middle of that, Michael Penix Jr. ! A quarterback who hasn't even had time to fully write his story yet. And already the noise is getting loud around him. That's why this doesn't feel like random drama anymore. This feels connected, like pieces of a pattern starting to lock into place in real time. And Cam's message? It wasn't just about one situation. It wasn't just about Shedeur Sanders or Michael Penix Jr. as individual players. It was bigger than that. He was talking about what happens when a coach comes into a locker room full of young talent, and instead of building it up piece by piece, starts questioning the foundation before it's even finished. Because think about what Atlanta actually has right now. This isn't some empty roster hoping for miracles. This team is loaded with young stars. Speed, skill, confidence. Guys who flash real potential every time they step on the field. These are players who need guidance, structure, belief. They need a coach who looks at them and says, I got you, we're building this together. Not a coach who walks in and starts thinking about replacements before the process even begins. And that's the concern. Because if that mindset creeps in early, it changes everything. It changes how players feel in the locker room. It changes how they approach practice. It changes how much they trust the system. And once that trust cracks, it's hard to fix. Cam Newton put it in simple terms. Atlanta has the talent. No question about that. The pieces are there. But the real question is, does the coach believe in those pieces? Because based on what people have seen before, that belief hasn't always been obvious. And that's why the situation with Shedeur Sanders keeps getting brought up. Not because it's identical to that, but because it feels like evidence, a reference point. Something people can point to and say, we've seen something like this before. And once you start connecting those dots, the conversation gets deeper. It stops being just about schemes and playbooks and starts becoming about philosophy, about who gets time to grow and who gets questioned early, about who gets patience and who gets pressure. Because in this league, development isn't always equal. That's just the reality. Some quarterbacks get years to figure it out. Struggles are called learning experiences. Mistakes are labeled growing pains. But other times, those same struggles get flipped into doubt real fast. Suddenly it's, is he the guy? Can he handle it? Should we look elsewhere? And that difference in treatment, people notice it. Fans notice it. Players definitely notice it. And voices like Cam Newton, they're not afraid to call it out. Now bring it back to Atlanta. Because this is where things get serious for Arthur Blank. He didn't put this roster together by accident. This wasn't random. Every piece was chosen with a vision in mind. He's watched these players develop. He's seen the flashes. He knows what Michael Penix Jr. is capable of becoming. That's why this situation hits different. Because now he's sitting in meetings, reportedly frustrated, trying to figure out how things got here so fast, how the coach he trusted to execute the vision is now potentially trying to rewrite it. That's not a small issue. That's a franchise-level problem. Because if your coach and your vision aren't aligned, everything starts pulling in opposite directions. And that's how things fall apart. Not all at once, but piece by piece. So now the big question hanging over everything is simple, but heavy. What happens next? Does Arthur Blank step in and shut it down immediately? Does he make it clear, no debate, no gray area? Michael Penix Jr. is the guy and we're building around him, period. Or does the organization look at this situation and say, this might already be too far gone? Because let's be honest, once doubt gets introduced at this level, it spreads fast. And if they feel like the relationship between Stefanski and the vision is already cracked, do they cut it off now before it turns into something worse? So now everything comes down to this. Does this situation get fixed? Or does it keep sliding downhill until it turns into a full-blown mess? Because let's not sugarcoat it. If this keeps going the way it's going, it's not just front office drama anymore. It becomes locker room tension. It becomes distractions. And worst of all, it starts affecting players who didn't do anything to deserve this. And that's the part that hits the hardest. Because the guys on that field, they've been showing up, putting in work, doing everything they're supposed to do. Especially Michael Penix Jr. !! A young quarterback just trying to grow, lead, and prove he belongs. No drama, no complaints, just grinding. And now he's stuck in the middle of a situation he didn't create. That's tough. That's real tough. Meanwhile, Cam Newton is somewhere watching all this unfold like, yeah, I told y'all. And honestly, you can't even argue with him at this point. Because Cam didn't whisper his concerns. He didn't hint at it. He came out loud and clear from day one. He looked at what happened in Cleveland. He looked at Kevin Stefanski's track record. And he said, this could be a problem. And at the time, people brushed it off. Some said he was overreacting. Some said he was being too critical. Some said, nah, that won't happen again. But now, fast forward. And it's playing out almost scene for scene. Same type of questions. Same type of tension. Same type of uncertainty around a young quarterback trying to find his footing. That's not coincidence anymore. That's pattern recognition. And once people start seeing patterns, the conversation changes real fast. Because now it's not about maybe this works. Now it's about how do you stop this before it gets worse? And let's be clear about something. This isn't about attacking anybody or making things personal. This is about accountability. This is about making sure the people in charge are actually aligned with what's best for the team. Because right now, The guy who deserves support the most is the one getting caught in the middle. Michael Penix Jr. deserves better than this. Straight up, he deserves a real opportunity. A fair shot. The kind of patience every young quarterback needs to develop. You can't say you're building something and then start pulling pieces out before the structure even stands up. That's not development. That's chaos. And it's not just about one player either. The Atlanta Falcons as a whole deserve better leadership. This is a team with energy, talent, identity. A squad that's been putting in the work to rise up. They don't need confusion at the top. They don't need mixed signals. They need direction. Clear, confident, unified direction. And let's talk about the city for a second. Atlanta isn't just watching quietly. This is a passionate fan base, a community that rides with its team, a culture that takes pride in who represents them on that field. They want to see belief. They want to see commitment. They want to feel like the people in charge actually understand what this team means. And right now, they're watching closely because they can feel when something's off. Now bring it back to Arthur Blank. This is where it gets serious. Because he sees everything. He hears everything. He knows what he built. He knows what this roster is supposed to become. And more importantly, he knows when something doesn't match that vision. That's why all eyes are on him right now. Because this isn't just another decision. This is the decision. Do you step in and reset everything immediately? Do you draw a line and say, this is our quarterback, this is our direction, and we're sticking to it? Or do you let it play out and risk it spiraling into something that's harder to fix later? Because once a situation like this starts slipping, it doesn't slow down on its own. It picks up speed, and the longer it goes unchecked, the more damage it can do. That's what makes this moment so important. Not next week, not later in the season. Right now, the entire football world is watching. Analysts, fans, players, and everybody. Waiting to see what Atlanta does. Waiting to see if they protect their vision or let it get rewritten. Waiting to see if Cam Newton's warning turns into a full story or just a close call that got corrected in time. Because one thing is clear. This isn't a small situation anymore. This is a turning point.